It's a beautiful 80-degree day. You're looking at the I-4 in downtown Orlando as we gear up for this year's American Men's Basketball Championship featuring the 1-seed Cincinnati and the 3-seed Houston Cougars. Inside the Amway Center alongside Mike O'Donnell, I'm Haley Outen. We're happy to have you with us. There you see him, the Bearcat, conducting traffic, making sure everyone makes it in safe and sound inside the Amway Center for today's championship game. Thank you so much for tuning in with us, Mike, as we gear up for a great game in today's tournament final. What are we about to witness?
Well, first of all, the whole tournament's been awesome. We've had buzzer beaters. We've had tight semifinal games. I mean, what more could you ask for in March than an unbelievable championship game here in the American Conference Tournament?
Let's take a look at the tournament bracket and see how each of these teams made it into this final game. It's been a very competitive 4 days here in Orlando. Looking at first round action, SMU advanced as well as Memphis, Temple, and UCF out of the first round. And in quarterfinal action, Cincinnati took on SMU, winning that one 61-51. Memphis prevailing past the 4-seed Tulsa 67-64. We're going to take a look at that one in a second. Wichita State able to move past Temple in a very, very competitive game, 89-81. And Houston moved past UCF 84-56. Then in semifinal action yesterday afternoon, Cincinnati took on Memphis, final in that one, 70-60. And in the second semifinal of the day, Houston was able to move past Wichita State, 77-74. Now Cincinnati and Houston playing for the final and both looking for their first American tournament title in program history. Let's look back to semifinal number 1 yesterday and take a look at the highlights from that game. It was a very exciting game. Came down to the wire, but it was Memphis who got the hot start early. Actually, we're going to take a look at Kareem Bruton Jr. because this is the buzzer beater back in the quarterfinals so that the Tigers could make it to the semifinals. Mike, how impressive was that shot, the three-point floater?
We were going nuts there on the sideline. It was awesome. One of the best shots in all of the tournament play so far throughout the country. I was just shocked that Tulsa gave one of the fastest players in the conference a running start like that, and Bruton knocked down one of the biggest shots of his career.
That's what makes it March Madness. Exciting finish for the Tigers to punch their ticket to the semifinal. Now we're going to roll the semifinal highlights between Memphis and Cincinnati. A very exciting, a very competitive game. Memphis really getting off to a hot start in this one. And here you see him, the freshman Jamal Johnson buries the three to get started for Memphis. This was just the start of a great run for the freshman. Johnson again finds the ball, knocks down the three to give the Tigers a 6-0 lead in the semifinals, trending Memphis's way. But then Jaron Cumberland, he gets a big basket for the Bearcats early to respond. He was scoreless against SMU, so nice to see him get off to that start. Then Johnson again, hand in his face, 3 for 3 at this point from behind the arc. Rainier Thornton patiently waiting to find the hot hand. Johnson again from 3, 4 for 4 from 3, 17 points in the first half. One thing that worked all day for Cincinnati was finding this man, Gary Clark, down low for the bucket. Cincinnati down 19-14 at this point. The floor opening up a bit from the inside game, and Kane Broom nails the 3. Cincinnati trying to work their way back in. Jacob Evans, he's open, knocks down the 3 for the Bearcats. Down 23-20. Memphis answering at the other end. Thornton, his only 3 of the game. Tough shooting day. He was 3 for 12 from the field, but making a contribution right there. And Malik Rhodes off the dribble with the deep 3 for the Tigers. Here's Clark coming up next, down low to a wide open Cumberland. Cincinnati is going to go into halftime trailing by 13, but the second half was a much different story. Clark low to Cumberland out wide again. Knocked down the 3 to get the Bearcats started in the second half, sort of switching the momentum right there. The Bearcats moving the ball in transition for a Justin Jennifer 3 this time. And then Clark low again with the rim rocker. Fans getting loud inside the Amway Center as Cincinnati finds their rhythm. Bearcats on the run again. Jennifer to Evans with the dunk. Cincinnati sneaking up on Memphis right there, down 2. Kyle Washington, he spent a lot of time in the first half on the bench in foul trouble, but here he is for the basket and 1. Cincinnati taking the lead. And then Washington screening for Cumberland. Open 3 right there. They had to respect Cumberland's hot shot, so he drives in and finds who else but the player of the year, Gary Clark. Memphis trying to rally. Kevin Davenport finds himself an open lane and puts it in. Cincinnati up 52-48. Cumberland continued his Red Hawk game with another three. He had a game-high 18 points, 4 for 6 from 3. Memphis was held to 18% shooting in the second half. Add in some bad luck, resulting in a Jacob Evans dunk. It was a 23-point swing after the intermission. Cincinnati wins by 10. Final score 70-60. Mike, what a performance from Cincinnati in the second half. What changed for the Bearcats coming out of the locker room?
My assumption was Coach Mick Cronin wasn't high-fiving his team at halftime. It was he wanted to challenge them coming out in the second half to play with more effort, more energy. The best effort stat you can look for is rebounding, and the Tigers actually out-rebounded the Bearcats by 10 in the first half. You knew that was a big point of emphasis coming into the second half. Also, that full-court press completely changed the way and the momentum that Cincinnati was playing. Memphis could not handle the pressure of the Cincinnati guards.
After last night's semifinal, I had a chance to catch up with Cincinnati senior Gary Clark. I'm now joined by Cincinnati forward Gary Clark. Gary, congratulations on this win. When the shots weren't falling for your team in the first half and the physical battle was as high as it was, what does it say about the maturity of this group to be able to come back out in the second half and have the half that you did?
It's huge. You know, we missed defensive assignments the first half, letting guys get hot, and just digging ourselves in a hole and being able to come back, second half, come out intense defense, rebounding, making the right pass. So it shows great poise by our bench, the guys that came in and contributed, and we just build from it, try not to get in a hole like that again from this point on, but, just show great poise by our team.
In the second half, Jaron Cumberland was able to make a significant contribution. When he's on, how does that change the game for your team?
It changed the game. He's huge because, he's always leading us in the little stats that people don't pay attention to, whether it's assists or, steals. But when he's hot like that, it just just breaks everything open, whether he can pass it to us in the paint because everybody's keyed on him or Jacob, and when he lighted up, even if you're there, sometimes with his shot, he still buries it.
How does a win like this make your team better moving forward?
I think the deficit that we dug ourselves in early, it really shows us that we can come back, later on, in the next couple games, just being able to be like, all right, we're down, but we can, one stop at a time. That's all we kept telling each other, one stop at a time.
Last year, you were in a very similar situation, knowing that your team was heading to the NCAA tournament, but had to play in the championship final first. You left Hartford empty-handed without that championship. What sort of taste did that leave in your mouth?
It left a bad taste, you don't want to go from there to the tournament with a loss, but, I think it just says a lot winning a championship. Not only regular season, but a conference tournament championship. And, as seniors, me and Kyle, neither of us have ever cut down nets. So that's one goal that, I think both of us have on our agenda to do. And I know me and Coach talked about it, being able to do that with one another. So I think our team is bought in and being able to just go in and just lock in and come out with a W.
Less than 24 hours to rest up for the championship final. How do you prepare for tomorrow with such a short turnaround, knowing that this is the last chance you're going to have a chance to win a title in the American?
We just go back, rest. Our strength coach and our trainer, they got a little pool they brought, and it's filled up with ice. We get an ice, we get laser, they have a massage person come, we get a massage and everything. So we get the whole shebang.
Nice.
So, we'll be rested. As long as the guys stay out their feet, it's a Wahlburger right down the street, so a lot of guys are going crazy about that. But, just rest and get off our feet.
No matter who you face in the final, it's going to be a tough game. What's it ultimately going to come down to?
I think it's going to come down on rebounding. That's been the title for when we play Houston, rebounding, play Wichita State, rebounding. So, both teams get geared up to, get their team a second opportunity. So, the least errors usually win. And I think we made least errors at Wichita, and then at Houston, we made more, and they came out victorious. So either team is going to be a battle. So we just got to get prepared and try to make as least errors as possible.
Taking away from your performances the past 2 days, what is the key to your team getting a fast start?
I think it starts with the seniors, me and Kyle. being dominant early, whether it's an offensive rebound or a block shot, just setting the tone for our team right from jump, because they really do feed off of us. And I think it shows, these last 2 games where, the game started off slow and then we weren't like rebounding or scoring. So, tomorrow you can expect me or him to really set the tone early.
All right, thanks a lot. Good luck in the final.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Good luck. Mike, we heard Gary Clark right there say that right out of the gate you can expect to see him and Kyle Washington really set the tone for his team. What do you expect to see from these 2 seniors playing in their last conference tournament final?
Well, you heard Gary Clark. By the way, great interview. How much do you want to get massages and laser treatment? I want to play for the Cincinnati Bearcats. That's pretty cool. But they want to cut down the nets. They want a championship. These seniors have been here. They understand a championship atmosphere, but they need to take the next step. That was a goal for them coming into this season. They almost had it last year, but ended up losing to SMU in the championship game. This team is built for March. Defensively, offensively, this might be the best team that Coach Cronin has ever had, and it's led by those seniors. There's no question about it. They want it bad tonight.
Let's take a look at that 21-2 run coming out of the halftime, and who got it started? No other than Jaron Cumberland. And Gary Clark said he plays a significant contribution. He doesn't need a lot of space to score. He's confident he can score on his own. And last night, Cincinnati certainly felt Cumberland's contribution.
Yeah, this phrase gets thrown around a lot, but it's correct. He is the X factor for Cincinnati. Coach Cronin loves the way that Cumberland plays because he's unselfish, his ability to knock down shots. He gets his teammates involved, but he's also a great defender as well. Every time he's on the floor, you feel comfortable because you know that he's going to execute the game plan. He understands the scouting report, and he's going to take care of business. Everybody in the conference would want a player like Jaron Cumberland on their team, and you're going to be able to see why tonight in the championship game.
Coach Cronin told me last night that they just got outplayed in that first half, and Memphis was just knocking down guarded shots. So great effort by the Memphis Tigers. Here's what head coach Tubby Smith had to say after last night's semifinal.
But this group has really come on to kind of overachieve to some degree. When you finish 9th in the league and finish 5th, and we finished with one of the final 4 teams in the tournament. So it might help. But I know it's a lot of good teams out there, and certainly love to be in it. But again, that's not our. We have a lot to do with it. If we're done what we're supposed to do, we probably. Would be in the big dance, but we didn't. So now it's a matter of just, I think we could, because we're playing so well. I think we would play well in it.
Mike, it was a great showing by Memphis this week, and certainly a step in the right direction for Tubby Smith's Memphis Tigers this season. Do they deserve to play in the NIT this year?
Well, we'll see. They have an RPI of 107, but look, from a national perception standpoint, what Coach Tubby Smith has done with this Memphis team this year has been nothing short of spectacular. He inherited a situation that was very difficult. You could almost characterize it as a mess. I mean, this is a coach that has taken 5 different teams to an NCAA tournament. He knows what he's doing. I think they're trending in the right direction. And you also have to remember in that semifinal game, they played great against Cincinnati, but they were without Jamario Rivers, who went down within the first 2 minutes of the game with a really bad sprained ankle. It almost looked like he had a concussion as well. So that was another mishap that you can't control. You have no control over that scenario. Losing a player like that, that hurts you big time. I think Memphis is trending in the right direction. I think Coach Tubby Smith is the right man for the job, and I think they're going to be fine. I don't know if they're going to make it in the NIT, but they will get a look.
The Memphis Tigers will wait and see if this was the end of their season. But for Cincinnati, this is hopefully the start of a very long run going into March as the Bearcats prepare to win their first conference tournament final, as well as make a run in the Big Dance. Let's get to know the Bearcats a little bit better before tip.
Evans has the last look. And Gary Clark will finish with the right hand.
Final 4. Go out, it's me going out as a senior. I want to go out with a bang. The guys want more. We have maturity. Guys that's been in those battle games where it comes down to the last second shot, last second rebound. We're all hungry.
Regular season title, AAC conference championship, and the NCAA championship. that's perfect. Playing at Cincinnati gives you the hunger to start with, but coming up short on our goals last year, like a conference championship, conference tournament championship, and of course a further run in the NCAA tournament, we had that bad taste in our mouth, so we just put in the time, hard work, dedication to the weight room, to the gym, film on anything we can do to get better, so we can not have that bitter taste in our mouth come next time.
Any coach is going to tell you, do we have some talent? How's it going to mesh together? Sure, we have some talent, but you don't know how it meshes together. That's where the question, how do our point guards adjust to playing at the high level? How quick can I get them game ready, battle ready? I like our chances if we stay healthy because of our leadership in this team.
Last year, the Bearcats were in this very same position, playing in the conference tournament final, knowing that they were headed to the NCAA tournament. But head coach Mick Cronin told me yesterday that he thought his team looked fatigued and tired and that they didn't play all 40 minutes of that game. And going up against SMU and a senior-laden roster, the Mustangs just wanted it more. How do you think walking away from last year's conference tournament final impacts these players heading into tonight's game?
Well, I know how it impacts Coach Mick Cronin. If you don't think that he's excited about this game tonight, little revenge. He thought he should have won last year. It was a great game in the championship game versus SMU, but Cincinnati's ready to play. I said it earlier, this team is built for March because of their defensive ability and their ability to score the basketball. This is their best offensive team in the last 10 years at Cincinnati. You have senior leadership in Gary Clark. I think this is a team that can, no question, win this game tonight and then go deep inside of the March tournament. The NCAA tournament could be a big run for the Bearcats.
First, they'll have to take on a Houston Cougar team that is playing some great basketball in the beginning of March. We're going to take a look at the Cougars a little bit later in the show, but stay with us because coming up next, we're going to be joined here on the set by the Commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Oresco.
Oh, that ball is hit deep. Left field. Way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially. Schreitenthal's over to first. In time. Double play, and that ends the game.
For every hero, there is an origin story, an experience that made them who they are. For a new generation of explorers, pioneers, and innovators, that experience is calling, offering a different kind of education, one guided by distinguished professors who understand experience as the best teacher. Greatness lies beyond the classroom. This is where you start. University of Cincinnati. Do more.
2018 Aaron's American Athletic Conference men's basketball pregame show. Alongside Mike O'Donnell, I'm Haley Outen, and we're now joined on the set by the Commissioner of the American, Mike Oresco. Mike, great to see you. What is your impression of the level of competition that we've witnessed in this tournament all week long?
Well, great to be with you, Haley and Mike. It's been terrific. Obviously, we've had really competitive games. We put our best foot forward again. You know, we've got a national audience on CBS. We had a national audience on ESPN. Virtually all of our games have been competitive. And yesterday, that second game, that was an absolute war, you know, a heavyweight fight. And we did it in football with our final few games, and we're doing it here, too. It's great to see my old colleagues from CBS, too, Jim Nance and obviously Bill Raftery, Grant Hill.
I got to tell you, it's really exciting right now for Houston. The city of Houston's got to be in love with Cougar basketball. They're going to get an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament, a phenomenal RPI. Can you speak to what Coach Kelvin Sampson's done for this Houston program?
Well, we knew he would. He's a great coach, and we knew there would just be a matter of time before they would be a tournament team again. And, they have that great history. Now, it's been a while, but they have a great pedigree, a great history. The fans are excited. They're getting a new arena next year, basically a brand-new renovated arena. So this is exciting for them. And Kelvin, what he did during the hurricane, too, I mean, it was absolutely spectacular when they got all those boxes of goods, and we sent a lot from our conference. I remember they didn't know what to do with it all. They got so many from so many people. And Kelvin, was a hero in that community. In addition, he's just a great coach, Final Four coach, which, we have a lot of them in this conference. But I think the people of Houston are really excited. And again, this team could do some real damage in the tournament. Today, you should be, I have no idea who's going to win this game. This is going to be a tremendous game.
You mentioned a great semifinal game yesterday, especially in the second game. Houston, Wichita State, the Cougars moving on to play here today. But how impressed were you with the Wichita State fan turnout?
Impressive, and I hope some come today. Maybe some are heading back, but incredible. Yeah, they filled the place, and Cincinnati brought a number of fans this year as well. And, we've been challenged a little bit with attendance here because we're so far from a lot of our schools. It's a great place to be. Amway Center's beautiful, no question about it. But, yeah, it was gratifying to see. They have such a great fan base, and it was a terrific game. Rob Gray, almost single-handedly won that game, and Landry Shamet did a great job too, trying to bring his team back. It was just, again, as I said, a heavyweight fight. Two great coaches coaching against each other. I'm sure Wichita really appreciates that aspect of being in the conference. You get to play these kinds of games on national TV with the crew that's going to do the NCAA tournament final is doing your game. Pretty exciting.
I look at the national perception in the American Conference, and I see Wichita State, Cincinnati, and Houston in the NCAA tournament. But I look at SMU and UCF as teams that, no question, probably could have made the tournament this year if they weren't decimated by injuries. My feeling is that the American's going to be a 5-bid league team in the years to come when everybody's healthy. I mean, this is going to be one of the top 2-3 conferences in the country when you talk about multi-bid leagues in the nation.
I think it's going to be that for sure, Mike. I think we might even be looking at 6 or 7 bids from year to year. Because remember, Temple, UConn, Memphis are 3 of our programs with the best pedigree, and they're down right now. They're not going to stay down for long. Programs like that just don't, because we have the commitment of the administrators, and they'll hire the right coaches, or they have coaches in place who are already terrific. We are going to have, I think, a league that's going to have 7 or 8 or 9 teams competing for a tournament slot every year. They won't all get them. This year, you're absolutely right. We would have had 5. I mean, look, UCF never even got out of the blocks without all their guys being injured. And SMU was headed for the tournament. When you've beaten Arizona and you've beaten Boise and you've beaten USC
big win, yeah.
And you had some more other big wins, and you had, a 12-6 record, you went into Wichita and won. You had great stars like Shake Milton, and obviously the injuries just completely decimated them. We've been snake-bitten a little bit, by injuries and other things. Basketball, you remember Emmanuel Mudiay never came to SMU. He would have been one of the brightest stars. We had some other players that didn't come. But I think our basketball is really, really on the cusp of doing some great things, mainly because when you've got coaches like we have across the conference, and Brian Gregory's done a phenomenal job at USF, and let's not forget what Mike Dunleavy's done at Tulane. He doesn't get the credit because maybe they're not necessarily there yet, and it's not an easy place to win. But, he's a great coach, and you can see the progress they've made. They're a dangerous team to play now, especially at their place. So I'm pleased with the progress, and I think we just got to keep at it.
2 top 20 teams playing in this conference tournament final. Playing on CBS today, what kind of exposure does that give this league playing on national television heading into the NCAA tournament selection show?
Well, it's a huge window for us because it leads into the selection show. It's not going to be on CBS this year, but the viewers will watch the CBS game, and then I guess they'll be directed to go to TBS this year. But the truth is, it's a great window. There's not a lot in that window. There's no Big Ten anymore. Obviously, on Sunday, they played earlier in the week. So we should have essentially the showcase to ourselves. And I think, I didn't get the ratings from yesterday, but I imagine that late game and our opening game with Memphis threatening to obviously beat Cincinnati must have been, good rating too. That was a good game. It's a great opportunity for us. It's a one-shot deal, for now. And we're thrilled with ESPN. I don't want to say anything that would even be construed negatively on ESPN. They do a great job. And, Kevin and John did a great job calling the games. We enjoy having them here. We'll be back on ESPN next year. Our rating in the last few years has been great. We've outrated some conferences that probably get more attention necessarily than we do.
Mike, thanks so much for joining us today, and looking forward to a great final. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley, and thank you, Mike. Great to see you, and enjoy the game. It should be a great atmosphere again. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, stay with us live on our post-game show. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at some of the top players from across the conference this season.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
What is power? Is power just energy? Is it strength? Or can power be something more? The ability to achieve, to launch, to break new ground, to change the game. Power empowers to lead, to break glass ceilings and shoot for the moon. Knowledge is power. The power to change your circumstance and the world. The University of Houston. Powerhouse.
It begins with a vision. It builds strength, endurance, focus, determination. It transforms athletes into a team and fans into believers. It creates an unstoppable force, a force to be reckoned with, a force that is power. The American Power for Life.
Back into the 2018 Aaron's American Athletic Conference pregame show. I'm Haley Outen alongside Mike O'Donnell. We're gearing up for a great game between the 1-seed Cincinnati and the 3-seed Houston in just a few minutes. But let's take a look back to some of the top performers this year. Earlier this week, the American announced its major award winners as well as its all-conference teams, and several of those players will be featured in today's game. First up, Mike, from Wichita State, they made a great effort in the semifinals, but it's redshirt senior center Shaq Morris.
Shaq Morris is a beast on the inside. He's second in the conference in field goal percentage, one of the most efficient players in the conference, a big key to the Shocker season.
His teammate had high expectations heading into this year. It's redshirt sophomore guard Landry Shamet.
Yeah, Landry Shamet is a pro. I've talked to a number of NBA scouts and agents, and they love his game. He led the American Conference in assists and is a knockdown three-point shooter. He just makes and takes big shots for the Shockers.
We'll see him take the floor today. It's Cincinnati guard / forward Jacob Evans III.
Well, we haven't talked much about Jacob Evans III in this broadcast, but I love his game. He's another guy that will probably play for a lot of money one day. He led Cincinnati in scoring this year, almost 14 points per game.
He stole the show in scoring last night. It's Houston guard Rob Gray.
The best scorer in the country that you don't know enough about. He is the all-time leading scorer in the American Conference, and he's fourth in the American in assists. He is a complete player.
And for Cincinnati, it's senior forward Gary Clark, a unanimous first-team all-conference selection, as well as the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, what else can we say about Gary Clark except that we haven't mentioned his nickname, The Problem, because he is a problem for offenses and defenses. He is one of the toughest, most mentally engaged players inside of the American Conference and one of the best defenders in the country. He was a unanimous selection for the all-conference team, the fifth player in Cincinnati program history with 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. Cincinnati fans will be really sad to see the senior go after this year.
You mentioned him, Gary Clark, the problem. He does it all. Player of the year, defensive player of the year, sportman of the year. And when I talked to head coach Mick Cronin yesterday, he said, Gary is just one of the greatest people you will ever be around. He's extremely selfish, and sometimes he has to force feed Gary Clark the ball to make him take a shot. Mike, when you look at Gary Clark's game, what is the most impressive thing about it?
You know, it's almost as if you can name a number of things about Gary Clark. We know he can score, he can shoot the three, he's great in one-on-one post-up scenarios, he's an incredible defender. But the fact that he shows up every single night with that type of effort and energy cannot go unnoticed. And I think that's something that when you look at, he's the player you want to play with, and he's the player you want to coach. You always want to have one of those guys as your teammates, and as a coach, you would kill to have that type of player on your team because he brings his lunch pail and hard hat every single night, and everybody Everybody wants a player like Gary Clark on his team. Super teammate, incredible player on the floor, and he's a double machine. That's one of the reasons why he was a unanimous selection in the all-conference team for the American.
Amazing all-around career for Gary Clark, but let's look at a couple of special honorees on the Houston side. The Cougars able to pick up the 6th Player of the Year award, and that went to sophomore guard Armani Brooks.
Yeah, averages about 10 points a game off the bench, and it's so important to have a guy like that to come off the bench and get hot for you quickly, especially if you have a scoring lull. He was also 43% from the three-point line, one of the best three-point shooters in the American Conference, regardless of how many minutes you play. Brooks was a big-time player for the Cougars this season.
His head coach receiving some love as well. Coach of the Year led his team to a 26-6 season up to this point. Amongst the great coaches that are in this league, why was Sampson deserving of this honor?
He's bringing Houston basketball into national prominence. It's the first time they were ranked in the AP Top 25 since the 1984 Phi Slamma Jamma team of the Houston Cougars. Just a tremendous job. He's scheduled really well. They are one of the best field goal percentage defenses in the country. We don't say that enough about this great scoring Houston team as well.
What are some of the marquee wins that stick out to you from Houston this season?
Yeah, they had a big win over Providence in the non-conference schedule. They also took care of Wichita State and Cincinnati in the conference. They have an RPI inside of the top 20, and they just got the job done all year. I love this Houston team. If they play in the second weekend in the NCAA tournament, everybody's going to be like, I can't believe Houston's in the Sweet 16. I won't be shocked because they have all the ingredients to get to that second weekend.
You mentioned marquee wins, 2 of those coming over Wichita State and in last night's semifinals. So let's roll the highlights and see how the Houston Cougars punched their ticket to this year's championship final. Rashard Kelly with the spin move low and early to get Wichita State started and on the board. But Corey Davis Jr., he finds the big man, Breon Brady. He responds for the Cougs, tied at 2. Corey Davis Jr. was a quiet hero in this game, the first of his 19 points. Houston down 6-4. This is going to be a back-and-forth game. And then Armani Brooks, the 6th Player of the Year, with the drive and the score for Houston. Marcus McDuffie gets the friendly role here. He had 7 points in last night's semifinal game. Houston went on an 8-0 run before Darrell Willis powers his way inside to finish on the drive. Wichita State working their way back in from a 20-13 deficit. Houston's defense was huge in the first half. Devin Davis with the block and almost gets the rebound. Great defensive effort last night by the Cougs, but Landry Shamet, open if he's in the gym, knocks down the 3. Wichita State down by 5. Then Corey Davis on the drive gets the ball to Nura Zana. Zana 5 points, 9 boards in 15 minutes off the bench. Galen Robinson right on Fran Camp with the perfect block. Robinson doing a lot of the thankless, gritty work on defense for Houston last night and all season long. Second half, Corey Davis feeling it, hitting the 3. He was 3 for 5 from behind the arc. But on the other side, Shamet, he came alive on a scramble play right here outside, hitting an NBA range elbow 3 to bring the Shockers within 5. Davis trying to match on the other side. And he does. Knocks down the three-pointer, 45-37 Houston. Then Shamet off the curl. He had 17 points. Seems like he had a lot more. He was responding when the Shockers needed to. Then Austin Reeves finds Kelly, who knocks down the rare 3. Wichita State keeping this one close as the half moves on. Cincinnati struggled from the field in the second half with Davis on the bench with foul trouble, and Rob Gray, alive, hits the 3. Houston, rather. Shamet, with the hand in his face, ties the game, and it would stay close till this very final possession. 9 to go. Rob Gray, a one-man show from 3, stepping up in the clutch for Houston when his team needed him the most. Houston big men also had foul trouble and trouble guarding Kelly with the open dunk. But Rob Gray Jr., he's going to keep the scoring going. Here's an even deeper 3. He had 4 threes in the second half. Kelly misses this 3, but follows it up and banks it in. Wichita State back on top. Landry Shamet on the drive, finds McDuffie. Then Morris cleans it up. 67-65. It looks like Morris is going to get a big basket, but Devin Davis with the clutch block right there. But Morris is going to give it another go, not denied a minute later. 12 points for the senior, and he absorbed a lot of the fouls. Wichita State had maintained a small lead, but Rob Gray again, clutch. Three-pointer ties it, and then the play of the game, Wichita State with the lead, inbounding it, but Gray steps in and finds Galen Robinson for the basket. Houston still up one with about 6.5 seconds to go. Robinson steals the inbound pass. And this is going to seal the deal for Houston. Team fired up on the bench. Gray would hit both free throws, finishing with 33 points. And Shamet, decent look for the tie, but it doesn't go. And Houston is on to the championship game. Mike, one of the best games we've seen all season. How clutch was not only Rob Gray, but more importantly, Galen Robinson in those final possessions?
Yeah, well, first of all, Rob Gray Jr. was unconscious in that game. He had 33 points, had 4 three-pointers. And Galen Robinson Jr. paying attention to the scan report. A great job by Coach Sampson of knowing exactly what Wichita State was going to run. They were trying to go to Connor Frankamp in the corner. Robinson shot the gap, got the steal, got it to Rob Gray. What an unbelievable job defensively from a scatter report standpoint for the Houston Cougars.
In the post-game press conference, a reporter asked head coach Kelvin Sampson what a win over Wichita State does for the perception of his program, and he wanted to let them know, hey, we beat them twice this season, so these wins over these top 10, top 25 opponents, they're becoming an expectation for his program.
No question about it, and that's how you build confidence. That's how you grow as a program, is when you expect to win games versus top 15, top 25 teams. You are a top 25 team in the AP poll. This was an unbelievable job by Coach Sampson. They're playing with high effort, high energy, and their confidence is through the roof. You better believe they're coming in this game thinking they can win it.
After the game, I had a chance to speak with a veteran on this Houston roster. He's ready to take this championship final game by storm. Here's a look at what Rob Gray had to say after last night's semifinal. Rob, congratulations on this win tonight. You made your presence known in several different areas on the floor. How did having to wait almost 2 days to even join tournament action impact your performance tonight?
We were very well rested. Been laying up in the hotel all day with the late game, but we had much time to prepare. So we were ready to come and play this game. We've lost this game the last 2 years, and all we did was just remind each other and the new guys how we are not losing this first game in the AAC tournament. And we're not really focused on winning at all. We're just taking it one game at a time, and I'm just glad we could get by that first game and avoid the March Madness, the upset.
It was a physical battle. It was an intense game. With your team being able to stay focused and persevere in the end, what do you think it says about your team's maturity being able to push yourself through that type of game?
Yeah, that's something we talk about all the time in practice: maturity, player leadership, senior leadership, and just helping your teammate whenever they may not be aware or in a wrong position. So that's a big part of our team, especially on the defensive end, defensive chemistry, and helping the helper. And that's one of the things that helped lead to this big win tonight.
I know the NCAA tournament is in the near future, but you have to take care of business here at the conference tournament first. What does making a run in the conference tournament as a senior on this team mean to you?
Means everything. There's going to be a group at U of H that's going to bring this program back to national attention, and to be a part of that feels really, really good. But we're not done, and we can still go out with and making a lot more noise. And to win the AAC title, had a snapback song, get a ring. It'll be a great feeling, and it'll also be great for us in seeding as we go into the tournament. And we're just really looking forward to taking it game by game. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Last time you met Wichita State, it was a very exciting victory, but this is a little bit of a different type of situation, playing in the conference tournament, the late game in the quarterfinal, and then less than 24 hours before you meet them tomorrow. How do you prepare for that game yourself mentally?
It's all about who's going to come out and play the hardest. That's all it's about. When we played them at Wichita, they came out, played harder, and they beat us. When they came to Houston, we came out, we played harder, and we beat them. So it's going to be ever which team is more desperate and which team wants it the most. And I think that's going to show who will win the game tomorrow. So we just have to ingrain that message into everyone's head, get all the new guys excited and ready to go. And I'm pretty sure that with this win tonight, that took care of itself.
All right, good luck tomorrow, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Houston defense stepping up big in last night's semifinal. Mike, especially in the first half, the Cougars were great on inbounds plays.
Well, that, and they held Wichita State, who was a great three-point shooting team. Wichita State only shot 27% from the field. The guards could not get going outside of Landry Shamet. but you heard Rob Gray Jr. talk about it. They were superb at helping the helper. That's his defensive philosophy, to where it's not the first guy that comes to help, it's the second guy that comes to help that really makes great defensive teams. Quite honestly, this Houston half-court defense mirrors Cincinnati's to a T. They are the kings of helping the helper, especially along the baseline and in the interior. That is one thing to watch. Another thing to watch, a combined 59 free throws were taken in that game, the Wichita State-Houston game. Houston has to play without fouling. They cannot send Cincinnati to the free throw line.
We knew Wichita State's defense was good heading into this game, but last night the country got to see what the Cougs could do on the defensive end. Here's head coach Greg Marshall following yesterday's semifinal game.
That's a tough one to lose. I thought we played really well in the second half up until the very end, and we lost to a very good team, and that's all we were going to face in this tournament. We knew that, but we've got to execute better down the stretch. That's on me, and need to make a couple of free throws, and I think we could walk out of here with a win, but we've got to execute better and make sure we call our timeouts if we don't have the option we're looking for on out of bounds.
That was Wichita State head coach Greg Marshall. Houston's on a quiet run, and at the beginning of the year, we looked inside Houston's program to see how they felt about their postseason chances. Let's get to know the Cougs a little bit closer to Tip.
Well, we have a lot of new faces. I've been doing this long enough now that I don't make any predictions on what we're going to look like. We're a work in progress. But I can see where this team's going to have a chance to be pretty good eventually.
First, we have to expect it out of ourselves. We have to believe. We have to work for it, grind it out every day. So making it to the tournament is nothing. We don't look at it as being given to us. That's something we're going to have to earn.
When we're playing and we're focused, we feel like we can beat anyone. We're in every game. We play hard, but it's those games that you may underestimate just a little bit that cause us to slip up. It's just one or two games those past 2 years, and that was the reason that we were left out of the tournament. So that's one thing we're really focusing on this year is just the minor details, just try to get those right for this year.
It goes back to repeating what Coach always says: defense, rebounding, being tough, and just wanting it, having a high carrying factor, and just showing it out on the floor. I think those are the basics, and if we can handle that, we can be in any game, and I think our offense will definitely give us a chance to win.
We're trying to make a run in the NCAA tournament. That's the goal for, I'm pretty sure, every team here, every team in America is probably saying that, but we've been saying it for the past 2-3 years, and this year we're going to get it done.
The Houston Cougars are confident heading into tonight's final after the growth they have shown throughout the course of this season. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a guy who's been covering this tournament all week long. It's the Orlando Sentinel's Matt Marshall. Stay with us.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American. It begins with a vision. It builds strength, endurance, focus, determination. It transforms athletes into a team and fans into believers. It creates an unstoppable force, a force to be reckoned with, a force that is power. The American Power for Life.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Aaron's American Athletic Conference men's basketball pregame show. Thanks for tuning in with us. Alongside Mike O'Donnell, I'm Haley Outen, and we're now joined here on the set by the Orlando Sentinels, Matt Murschel. Matt, great to see you. You've been covering this tournament all week. What has been your impression of the level of competition we've witnessed each day?
It's been outstanding. I mean, think about some of the games we saw last night. You know, the Houston game was, Rob Gray almost looked like a street type playground type performance what he was able to do there. Memphis with a three-pointer, to win a game a day earlier. So really, it's been outstanding play, and I think it's what you expect when you get to conference championship weeks.
Okay, Matt, I'm putting you on the spot, the hot seat. You ready? You've got Wichita State, Cincinnati, and Houston going to the NCAA tournament. Where do you see those three teams? How do you see them faring in the big dance?
Well, I think, based on what performance we've seen this season, I think all three of those teams can go pretty far into it. At least maybe getting to the Sweet 16 would be nice to see happen. I think Houston obviously playing in this game and Cincinnati playing in this game as well. I think maybe that kind of gives them a little bit more of a push going in. I think Wichita State, having the way they lost last night, I think they're going to be a little hungrier. So I think they want to kind of prove to everybody that they can kind of, continue to move forward on it. So I think all three of these teams are right there when you talk about some of the elite teams that we're seeing across the country right now.
Two top coaches squaring off in today's game. For Cincinnati's head coach Mick Cronin, he's been building this program for quite some time, but for head coach Kelvin Sampson on the Houston end, he's only been here for 4 years. How impressed are you what he's been able to do with his program in such a short amount of time?
I'm very impressed. I mean, he talked about it yesterday after the win, how that really this is about building that program back and getting it to where they were kind of that elite level that they were years ago. And I think he's done a great job with that. And that goes with recruiting guys like Rob Gray, guys who are able to come out and do the things they're able to do. And I think getting to this championship game the way they have, and maybe even possibly winning this game, would be a huge statement for them and moving forward maybe to kind of continue that trend and continue to get this program where it's a consistently top 25 program every year.
Yeah, outside of Houston, Wichita State, and Cincinnati, who are a couple teams that you feel are kind of on the upward trend from a national perception standpoint?
Well, I think Tulsa, was one of those teams that was right there as well. I think Memphis, obviously had a good run. Again, some of the off the court questions, we'll see what happens, what goes on there as well. UCF, I know they didn't get far, but here in Orlando, that program seems to be kind of on the right trend. They just went through a really bad period of injuries that really kind of limited to what they're able to do. So USF is there, and Tulane, who we saw, really kind of make. I think they won 5 or 6 more games than they did the year before. I think all these teams, when you look up and down the standings, these teams are all making big pushes to kind of have strong performance, which is why the American, I think, is one of the top conferences in the country.
As we head into this tournament final, we're on MOP watch. Who is the standalone player up to this point in the tournament that has stood out to you?
Well, I think to me it's got to be Rob Gray. I mean, just what he did yesterday. I mean, he struggled in the first half. He couldn't hit anything. Everything was kind of bouncing in and out. And then all of a sudden it was like something clicked, and he just started taking over that game. And I think if that can happen today, I think they've got a good shot at maybe probably getting a push for the title.
Well, you mentioned Rob Gray Jr., but who, for some of the local touch in the Orlando community, who does the UCF fans need to look to say, hey, this is going to be a player to watch next year?
On the UCF roster?
Yes.
Well, I think a lot of it is, they have to look at some of the guys that were hurt. I know obviously B.J. Taylor was the guy who's not going to be around, but he was the guy who was helping out. I think Taco was being hurt. Again, we'll see what happens on that front as well. But this program, I think Johnny Dawkins has done a great job of bringing in some of the talent. They have some transfers coming in. We'll see how that goes. So, they'll lose some guys, like as I mentioned, Taylor. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Matt, thanks so much for joining us, and great job covering the tournament here this week. For fans at home, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at @OSMattMurschel and at the Orlando Sentinel.
All right, well, there you have it. Enjoy this game. And coming up next, stay with us. We're about 15 minutes away from tip. A whole lot more coming up next.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as The American. It begins with a vision. It builds strength, endurance, focus, determination. It transforms athletes into a team and fans into believers. It creates an unstoppable force, a force to be reckoned with, a force that is power. The American power for life.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle.
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
The American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Welcome back to our pregame show at the American Men's Basketball Championship. We're about 15 minutes away from tip-off between the 1-seed Cincinnati and the 3-seed Houston, gearing up for a great tournament final. There you see him, the Cougar mascot right there alongside Mike O'Donnell. I'm Haley Outen. Thanks for tuning in with us. These two teams have met previously this season. They have split the regular season series, so right now we're gearing up for the rubber match. Let's look back to the first meeting between these two teams. First one took place in Cincinnati's home court. The Bearcats winning that one 80-70. Playing at Northern Kentucky this year, so both of these teams playing at their home away from home. But Mike, in this game on the Houston end, even though they lost this one by 10, Corey Davis Jr., he posted 18 points with 6 rebounds and 4 assists. How impactful does he need to be in tonight's game on the Cougars scoring front?
Got to be huge because Rob Gray Jr. and Devin Davis are going to get their points. I mean, that's going to be a big point of emphasis for Cincinnati. But if you can have that third guy to step up, I think that's Corey Davis Jr. His ability to shoot the three and extend the defense really opens up the paint and the dribble drive offense. Houston guards are so good at getting into the paint. That's going to be something the Bearcats are going to have to watch closely.
The Cougars actually built a double-digit lead early in this game and built as much as an 18-point advantage. But I think if we've learned one thing this week about Cincinnati, it's that they can battle back from down.
Yeah, you cannot take your foot off the gas pedal when you play Cincinnati. Partly, in fact, because we know how tough and physical and great they are on the defensive end. But this year, they have so many scoring options that they can come back from a double-digit deficit.
Here we are in the city of Houston for the second meeting. As mentioned, the Cougars' home arena, the Fertitta Center now rather, undergoing renovations. But the Cougars actually overcame a double-digit deficit for the first win over an AP top 5 team in more than 20 years. How big of a win was this for Kelvin Sampson's group?
Huge. It kind of gave the feeling of saying, okay, to the selection committee, this team is for real. After that win, it really felt like Houston solidified their chances as an at-large team in the NCAA tournament. But that score, it needs to be in the 60s. Houston needs to play in the 60s this game. Even though they are a high-scoring team, I think they're better when they're playing punch for punch with Cincinnati and trying to keep the game low-scoring. That's the hope that you need to be for the Houston Cougars.
Houston out-rebounded Cincinnati 36-27 with 11 offensive boards, leading to 17 second chance points. We've talked a lot about rebounding. Why could that be the difference here this afternoon?
Well, it's so surprising to hear a team out-rebounding Cincinnati because that's what they're known for. But this Houston Cougars team does exactly that. They have great front court activity around the rim, and when they're crashing the offensive glass, this is one of the most difficult teams in the country to beat.
Devin Davis finished 6th. We're going to actually take a pause for the national anthem right now. Getting closer and closer to tip here inside the Amway Center. Thanks for taking in the national anthem with us as we just looked back on the previous 2 meetings this season. As mentioned, Cincinnati won the first one 80-70 on their home floor. Houston won 67-62 on their home court. So the rubber match takes place this afternoon with the conference title on the line. I had a chance to catch up with both head coaches before today's game.
I think hopefully we learned today what tournament play is like. Tomorrow is going to be a battle royal, but even next week, we're going to be a high seed, and we're going to play an underdog, and that team's going to come out like Memphis did today, like SMU did yesterday. So hopefully we learned a lot today.
Less than 24 hours to prepare for the championship final. That's a little bit of a different situation than normal. How does that impact the preparation?
You're playing a team for the third time. Our guys, whether it's Wichita State or Houston, we all know each other so well. I think the team that is willing to play the hardest and really wants that trophy and wants to cut the nets down is going to win the game. And I thought that's what happened last year. SMU wanted it a little bit more than we did. They're a more senior-laden team. I thought we were fatigued, and it's going to be the same way tomorrow. So whoever we play is going to be a great team, and they're going to want to win the game. So our energy level is going to have to be great for 40 minutes. We can't just be a second-half team tomorrow.
Last year, you left the championship final rather empty-handed and watched the NCAA selection show coming off of a loss just a few minutes before. What would a win tomorrow do for this program heading into the final chapter of your season?
Well, I want to win for Gary Clark and Kyle Washington. They haven't cut down the nets. We won the regular season title on the road, so they didn't get to cut nets down. And, it's the end of their careers, so it's big for them. Yeah, obviously for your school, your fans, it's great. We have great support and a lot of people here in Orlando with us. But, I care most about the people in that locker room. And there isn't two better ambassadors for our university that have competed athletically in a long time like Gary Clark and Kyle Washington. So I'd love to see those guys get to climb up.
That was Cincinnati head coach Mick Cronin following yesterday's semifinal game. You heard him mention how important it is for his seniors to have a chance to cut down those nets today. But to do it, they'll have to take on Houston. Here's head coach Kelvin Sampson after last night's semifinal. Team has proven this season that you can compete with the best teams across the country. A win like this tonight in this sort of environment, in this sort of high-pressure situation, how does this compare to the games you're about to see in the NCAA tournament?
Well, you're not going to find a better team anywhere than Wichita State and Cincinnati, at least tougher. And they may have some more talented offensive teams, at least multiple scorers. But Shamet, Morris, Willis, Kelly, Reeves, Frankamp, I mean, they've got a lot of guys who can put the biscuit in the basket. But it shows you how tough we were that first half. Second half, we wore down a little bit, but let's give them some credit. That they're going to score the ball. I just felt like we had so many timely possessions, big baskets when we needed it. Then Rob makes the play of the game when he gets the steal and then makes a great pass to Galen for the layup.
When you look back to 4 years, we're moments away from tip-off, teams making their introductions. The lights are out inside the Amway Center. So a few quick closing thoughts, Mike. We're on MOP watch. Who's on your radar for Houston?
Yeah, Rob Gray Jr. I mean, he's the real deal. He had 33 points last night. Again, he's the best scorer in the country you don't know enough about. Anywhere inside of 30 feet, I like to call the gray area because that's exactly where Rob Gray Jr. can score and is capable of scoring. Can knock down the three. He can get to the rim. He's a great finisher around the basket, and he has a step-back jumper that very few in the country can guard. He is such a special player for the Houston Cougars.
You mentioned the gray area for Houston, but on the Cincinnati side, I think the player we're looking out for is the problem, Gary Clark.
Yeah, no doubt. It's not a problem to figure out who Cincinnati's best player is, and that is Gary Clark Jr. Back-to-back double-doubles in the conference tournament. Unanimous all-conference selection, and he is the most consistent post player in the country on both ends of the floor, not just on offense, but on defense as well. He leads the American in rebounds. He's 6th in the American in block shots, and he plays hard all the time. We love Gary Clark Jr. in the American Conference. We're going to be sad to see him go.
For Houston to win this game tonight, who is going to be the X factor?
Well, it's going to be Cumberland for Cincinnati. He's going to be the guy that's going to have to step up. But for Houston, it has to be Galen Robinson Jr. He is really, really, really efficient. Leads the American in assists, close to 6 assists per game. Highly efficient. He starts, he plays point guard, shooting guard, can knock down the three, and a really, really good defender as well.
Gearing up for a great game inside the Amway Center. Turn it over to CBS for tip. It's the 1 seed Cincinnati and the 3 seed Houston looking for their first American Championship title before they head off to the NCAAs. We'll see you back here after this game for our post-game show.